The room was thick with the smell of burning hair. Kefa stood in the dim light of the small hidden chamber at the back of his luxurious barbershop, his hands trembling as he held the tap of freshly clipped hair over the flames. The whispers of the incantation slipped from his lips like a secret he didn't want the world to hear. He didn't know why, but tonight the shadows on the wall seemed to shift and dance with more life than usual. More, they seemed to hiss. The demand sent a shiver down his spine. Kefa hadn't always been the owner of the most sought-after barbershop in the city. In fact, just 2 years ago, he'd been a man on the brink of losing everything. He wasn't just poor, he was invisible, another struggling soul lost in the sea of the city's unending hustle. But how had he gone from rock bottom to this glittering empire? That was a story he didn't like to think about too often. Just one last time, he muttered, his voice crackling as he tossed the air into the flames. The fire roared hungrily, and for a brief moment, Kefa thought he heard a voice, soft, insistent, and nervously familiar, calling his name from within the flames. Kefa's rise to fame hadn't been accidental. 2 years ago, his landlord had thrown him out of his small apartment for failing to pay rent for the 3rd month in a row. With nowhere to go, Kefa had wandered the street, carrying his worn-out barbering tools in faded backpack. Every client he'd had seemed to disappear overnight, and no one would hire him. Desperate, he sought advice from an old friend who whispered about a witch doctor who could open doors no one else could. "Don't be afraid," the friend had said. "Sometimes in this life, you have to knock on strange doors to find success." Kefa was skeptical, but too desperate to refuse. The visit to the witch doctor was the beginning of everything. The hut was nestled deep in the outskirts of the city, a place where people spoke in harsh tones and never stayed long. Kefa stood before the entrance, a mixture of fear and desperation brewing in his chest. He knocked lightly on the wooden door, and it creaked open as though it had been expecting him. Inside, the room was dimly lit by a single oil lamp, its flickering light casting shadows on the walls adorned with strange symbols and animal skins. The air was heavy with pungent smell of burning herbs, mixed with something metallic and unsettling. "Come in," a deep raspy voice beckoned from the corner. Kefa stepped inside, his heart pounding. A man sat cross-legged on a mat, draped in beads and robes that seemed to shimmer unnaturally in the low light. His eyes sharp and unblinking, bore into Kefa's soul. "What do you seek?" the witch doctor asked. I need success," Kefa stammered. "I need customers, money. My life, it's falling apart." The witch doctor leaned back, a slow smile spreading across his face. "You want wealth, fame and power. They are within reach, but they come at a price." Kefa hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to leave, but the image of his landlord's smoking face and the cold nights on the street pushed him forward. "What's the price?" "Not money," the witch doctor said, his voice low growl. "You must follow my instruction exactly. No shortcuts, no excuses. If you fail, the success you crave will crumble, and the consequences will be yours alone." Kefa nodded, desperation overriding caution. "I'll do it." The witch doctor handed him a small bundle wrapped in cloth. "Inside is everything you need. Burn the hair of every client who sits in your chair and chant the words I've written. Do this every day without fail. The more you burn, the more success you'll have." Kefa took the bundle with trembling hands, the weight of the decision settling heavily on his shoulders. The next morning, Kefa opened the bundle and found a small notebook filled with symbols and words he didn't understand, along with a bundle of dried herbs and a small clay pot. The instructions were clear. He was to collect the hair of every client, burn it with the herbs in the pot, and recite the incantation from the notebook. The first time he performed the ritual, his hands shook as he lit the fire. The hair sizzled and smoked, releasing a pungent, acrid smell that filled the small back room of his barbershop. As he chanted the strange words, a strange sensation washed over him, a mix of fear and something he couldn't quite name. The next day, new clients began to trickle in, their faces lighting up with satisfaction after the haircuts. By the end of the week, Kefa's chair was never empty. Kefa's barbershop transformed overnight. He moved from his cramped space in the slums to a sleek modern building in the heart of the city. The name Crown Cuts became synonymous with luxury and precision. Celebrities, politicians, and businessmen jostled for appointment. Some even traveled from abroad just to sit in his chair. The shop was always packed, the air buzzing with laughter, conversation, and the snip of scissors. Kefa's hands overworked magic, creating styles that left his clients amazed. Yet behind the dazzling success lay a dark secret. Every night after the last client left, Kefa would retreat to the private room at the back of the shop. There he performed the ritual, the flames consuming the hair as he chanted the incantation. He told himself it was just a routine, a harmless tradition. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. It started small, barely noticeable at first. One evening, as Kefa tossed a bundle of hair into the flames, he thought he heard a faint whisper. He paused, the chant faltering on his lips. "Kefa." He spun around, but the room was empty. Shaking his head, he dismissed it as his imagination, but the whispers grew louder each night, and the shadows on the wall seemed to move even when the fire was still. One night, the flame surged unexpectedly, licking the edge of the pot with unnatural intensity. Kefa stumbled back, his heart racing. "What is happening?" he whispered to himself, but the fire offered no answers. The whispers soon turned into demands. As Kefa chanted one night, a voice emerged from the flames, low, guttural, and lethal. "Blood," it growled. "Bring us blood." Kefa froze, the chant dying on his lips. "What do you mean? I've done everything you ask." "More," the voice insisted. "Blood will seal your empire." Kefa recoiled in horror. He wouldn't go that far, but the voice wouldn't relent, its demands echoing in his mind long after he left the room. Kefa's refusal to meet the champ's demand marked the beginning of his downfall. The once bustling shop grew quiet as clients began to cancel their appointments. Word spread that Kefa had lost his touch. Rumors circulated about botched haircuts and strange occurrences at crown cuts. Kefa was filled with desperation, but he couldn't bring himself to perform the ritual anymore. The thought of the champ's growing hunger sickened him. One night as Kefa sat alone in the darkened shop, the voice returned, louder and more insistent than ever. "Bring us blood or lose everything." Tears streamed down Kefa's face as he shouted into the empty room. "Take it all! I don't care anymore! I won't give you blood!" The flames in the back room roared to life. Even though there was no fire lit, shadows writhed and twisted, and the voice laughed a cold, chilling sound that echoed in Kefa's soul. The next morning, Kefa woke up to find the shop empty. The luxurious interior looked worn and faded, as though years of neglect had passed overnight. His once loyal employees had disappeared, and the phone stopped ringing. Kefa wandered the street, his tools in hand, searching for a way to rebuild his life, but everywhere he went, the shadows seemed to follow, whispering reminders of the deal he had broken. As he sat on the park bench, staring at the city skyline, he realized that the champ's grip had never truly left him. Kefa's life had crumbled to dust. Crown Cuts, once the beacon of his success, was now a ghost of its former self. The shop sat empty, its shiny glass windows reflecting his broken dreams. Kefa wandered the street, hoping to find some spark of hope, but instead he found himself haunted. The shadows followed him. Every time he turned a corner or looked over his shoulder, they were there, dancing on walls, stretching impossibly long in the dim city lights. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but then he began to hear the whispers again. "You cannot run, Kefa." The voices weren't just in his mind, they were real. People passing by didn't seem to notice the strange smoky figures that seemed to curl and drift near him. Kefa's breath quickened. Could he escape them, or was he destined to carry this curse forever? One evening, as Kefa sat on the pavement outside a small restaurant, an elderly man approached him. His face was withered, but his eyes held an unusual sharpness. "You look lost," the man said, sitting beside him. Kefa sighed. "Lost doesn't even begin to cover it." The man nodded knowingly. "I've seen that look before. You've crossed paths with something unnatural." Kefa's head shot up. "How do you know?" The man chuckled softly. "I've lived long enough to recognize the signs. Tell me your story, young man. Maybe I can help." Though hesitant, Kefa poured out his tale. The old man listened intently, nodding at certain points. When Kefa finished, the man leaned closer. "You must return to the source," he said. "The witch doctor. Only he can do what has been done." Kefa felt a glimmer of hope, but it was quickly overshadowed by fear. Could he truly face the one who had bound him to this curse? The road to the witch doctor's hut was long and filled with hesitation. Every step felt heavier than the last as Kefa's mind raced with doubts. Will the witch doctor even help him, or will he demand an even greater price? When Kefa finally reached the hut, it seemed even darker and more menacing than before. The symbols on the walls glowed faintly in the dim light, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. He knocked on the door, and it swung open, as though pulled by an invisible hand. The witch doctor sat in the same spot, his sharp eyes gleaming in the shadows. "So," the witch doctor said, a smirk playing on his lips, "you've come back." Kefa fell to his knees. "I can't do it anymore," he pleaded. "The charm, it's consuming me. Please undo it." The witch doctor laughed, a deep and settling sound. "Undo it? You came to me for power, and I gave it to you. Now you want to walk away without paying the price." Kefa's heart sank. The witch doctor's eyes narrowed. "Anything you say, be careful with your words, boy. The cost of freedom is often higher than the cost of power." After a long pause, the witch doctor spoke again. "There is a ritual, but it is dangerous. If you fail, the curse will claim you completely." Kefa nodded. "I'll do it." The witch doctor handed Kefa a bundle of herbs, a clay bowl, and a knife with carvings on its blade. "At midnight, go to the highest point in the city. Light a fire. Burn these herbs and chant the words I will give you. But beware, the charm will not give you up easily. it will fight to keep you. Kefa's hand trembled as he took the items. He didn't fully understand what he was agreeing to, but he knew he had no choice. At the stroke of midnight, Kefa stood on the rooftop of an abandoned building. The city sprawled out below him. He lit the fire and placed the herbs in the bowl, the smoke rising in twinkling tendrils. As he began to chant, the air grew heavy and the temperature dropped. The shadows around him began to take shape, forming grotesque figures with glowing eyes. "You think you can escape us?" they hissed. Kefa's voice wavered, but he continued chanting. The figures lunged at him, their smoky forms clawing at his skin. Pain shot through his body, but it didn't stop. As Kefa neared the end of the chant, the fire blazed higher, its light pushing back the shadows. The figures screamed, their forms dissolving into the smoke. But then, one final shadow emerged, taller, darker, and more menacing than the rest. Its voice boomed like thunder. "You're mine, Kefa. You cannot break the bond." Kefa gripped the knife tightly, the witch doctor's instruction echoing in his mind. "Cut your palm and let your blood seal the ritual." With a deep breath, Kefa sliced his palm and let the blood drip into the flames. The shadow let out a deafening roar as it was consumed by the fire. When the flames died down, Kefa collapsed to the ground, his body trembling. The air was still and the oppressive presence of the charm was gone. For the first time in years, Kefa felt a strange sense of peace he had won. But as he looked at his blood-stained hands, he realized the price he had paid. The scar would serve as a reminder of his choices, a mark he would carry forever. Kefa returned to the city with nothing but his tools and a newfound sense of purpose. He set up a small barbershop in a modest neighborhood, far from the luxury and fame of crown cuts. The customers who came were few, but they were loyal. Kefa found joy in his work again, not because of wealth or power, but because he had reclaimed his life. Years passed, and Kefa's stories became a quiet legend among the people who knew him. He never spoke about the charm or the witch doctor, but his eyes held a wisdom born of hardship and redemption. One day, a young man entered Kefa's shop, his face filled with desperation. "I've heard you're the best," he said. "I want to be like you." Kefa smiled, his hands steady as he picked up his scissors. "Let me tell you a story first," he said. And as the young man listened, Kefa shared the tale of a man who had everything, lost it all, and found himself in the ashes. This story teaches that the shortcuts to success, especially those rooted in dishonesty or dark means, come with hidden costs that often outweigh the rewards. True success is built on hard work, integrity, and perseverance, not on fleeting power or unethical choices. Thank you for watching. Kindly like, subscribe, and share.